I've had a difficult time explaining to people in New Jersey why I was leaving my state in crisis to come back here and do what? Have a judiciary hearing on a person that's not up for 4 months. This has been a long and difficult stretch for America, and particularly for the state of New Jersey. It's frustrating to me that we are having folks think that many of the Democrats have been criticizing coming back to work. First of all, that's an offense to senators on both sides of the aisle, because I've talked to senators on both sides of the aisle. All of us have been at work in our states, working on this crisis around the clock, doing everything we can to save lives, to help us to get through this crisis. The issues we've brought up have had nothing to do with us not wanting to come back here to do urgent and important legislating. In fact, I've been working with colleagues on both sides of the aisle just doing that. Senator Grassley and I introduced yesterday legislation to help our first responders who tragically die in the line of duty. He and I went to work. In New Jersey, we've had 27 first responders, firefighters, police officers die, and we want to work together. We have been working together to make sure they get the benefits they deserve. This is not about an issue of coming to work. All of us are doing it. It's an issue that in the midst of a global pandemic where tens of thousands of Americans are dying, where in my state, more people have died in about the last month than died in World War I, the Korean War, and Vietnam combined. This is about a time where we need the kind of leadership that calls this country to common cause and common purpose, not partisanship. And at a time that there's real fear in this country, health concerns, real fear in this country for our loved ones and our spouses, real fear about the economy and our economic recovery. As people who've not only seen folks lose their lives, but their entire livelihoods, their life dreams, we have our first hearing here not about the bipartisan accord or even debating things that there is some disagreement on, but we're having a hearing for a judge for a vacancy that's not even up until September. This is the moment where we together in a bipartisan fashion could be calling this country, talking to them about what our work really is to do. I can't communicate how deeply just disappointed I am that we're sitting here with a judge that we know would strike division and divisiveness at a time we need unity and common focus and common cause. This is a moment to rally around our nation, to lead this planet out of this darkness, and we have a role in the Judiciary Committee doing just that. And it goes deeper than that because, God, I'm coming from an inner city. Got in a car and drove down here. And this Judiciary Committee, we've worked in a bipartisan fashion to address the racial disparities in this country that have been devastating lives. Chairman and I have stood together, worked on things in the last bill that I'm so proud of doing. But this virus is revealing in ways that are so sobering to the heart the fragility of our society. From issues of domestic violence, to Americans living with disabilities, to our seniors in nursing homes, to the Navajo Nation right now that after New York and New Jersey has the third biggest impact. 118 days until a vacancy is open that we're talking about here, and in those 118 days, thousands of Americans will die. And are we talking about that? Are we summoned back here to come together? The first thing we do is a nomination here in this committee talking about a judge that's divisive. No matter what side of the aisle, you know this is partisan divisiveness. I see data now that should give us all pause. It should make us, frankly, many of us weep who love this country. the way COVID-19 has disproportionately harmed communities of color. Preliminary data indicating that this infection is killing Black Americans at staggeringly higher rates. 13% of our nation's population is Black, but according to the data, Blacks account for about a third of the nation's infections, more being infected in the African American community in this country than in many nations around the planet. And what does it say that we're here discussing Judge Walker? The bigger picture is this. There are so many issues we could be discussing. The health and safety of people working in correctional facilities, correctional officers who haven't been able to get the PPE that they need, prisons that have become hotbeds for this pandemic. That's our jurisdiction. We're not talking about hate crimes against Asian Americans, which are going up at astonishing rates right now. We aren't talking about our immigration policy. I've talked to ICE officials and their safety. I could go through chapter and verse the crises that we should be addressing that literally could determine lives lost or lives saved. I am frustrated and maybe a little emotional coming from New Jersey. I want to get to work. This is not it. I appeal to you. We have urgent causes that could bond us together as a committee to deal with the crisis of death and injustice, fragility and pain going on in our country. This makes a mockery of that, sir, and I call to you. There's so much bipartisan work here. We could show this country there's no red or blue states, there's no left or right. There's only one way out of this crisis, is by us bonding together and doing the things that the American people look up to, because I've had a difficult time explaining to people in New Jersey why I was leaving my state in crisis to come back here and do what? Have a judiciary hearing on a person that's not up for 4 months. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.